A mysterious signal from an uncharted planet pulls the Odyssey's crew into the farthest reaches of the galaxy. But when Captain Alex Tanner and his team land on Arctis-IV, they discover something far more dangerous than an unknown ecosystem, a long-lost secret that could change the future of humanity forever. As the strange signal leads them to an ancient artifact, Alex realizes they are not the only ones hunting it. Alien forces, dark alliances, and a threat to humanity's very existence await in a battle where every choice could be their last. If you're hooked by this adventure, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Stay tuned for the next chapter. The Odyssey sliced through the void, a silver spear against the infinite black of space. Its hull gleamed under the distant light of a crimson star, humming with the pulse of fusion engines. Inside, Captain Alex Tanner stood on the bridge, his broad shoulders squared beneath a navy blue uniform. At 35, his sharp green eyes carried the weight of a decade, commanding humanity's farthest-reaching research vessel. Humanity, still the Galactic Alliance's youngest member, was often dismissed as brash upstarts. Alex didn't care. He'd seen enough of the cosmos to know potential wasn't measured in millennia. Below, the planet Arctis-IV loomed, its surface a mosaic of violet jungles and glowing rivers. The Odyssey's mission: catalog its ecosystem, a task that had drawn the Alliance's attention and its scrutiny. Alex's crew, a mix of humans and aliens, buzzed with anticipation, but tension simmered beneath their efficiency. At the heart of it was Lyriel, the Alaris xenobiologist. Lyriel stood at a console, her lithe frame draped in a flowing silver tunic that caught the bridge's soft light. Her skin shimmered faintly, a pearlescent blue that shifted like liquid under the right angle. Her eyes, large and almond-shaped, glowed with a golden hue, and her hair cascaded in waves of midnight. To humans, she was striking, almost ethereal, but her Alaris traits, subtle bioluminescent markings, elongated fingers, unsettled some of the crew. Whispers followed her, too alien, too strange. Alex had overheard Lieutenant Harris mutter about her unnatural glow in the mess hall. He'd shut it down with a glare, but the sentiment lingered. "Captain, sensors detect anomalous energy signatures in Sector 7. Lyriel's voice chimed, melodic yet precise, cutting through the bridge's hum. She tapped a holographic display, her fingers dancing over light. Alex crossed to her station, his boots clicking on the polished floor. "Anomalous how?" he asked, leaning in. Her scent, like jasmine and ozone, hit him unexpectedly, stirring something he quickly buried. "Pulsed emissions, non-natural," she replied, her golden eyes meeting his. "It's not geological. Could be tech." He nodded, his jaw tightening. "Prep a shuttle. You're with me." A murmur rippled through the bridge. Harris, a stocky engineer, hesitated. "Sir, shouldn't we send a drone first? That planet's uncharted." Alex's gaze didn't waver. "Drones miss what eyes catch. Lyriel's the best we've got for this." "You disagree?" Harris flushed, shaking his head. "No, sir." Lyriel's lips twitched, a faint smile. "Thank you, Captain." The shuttle bay was a hive of activity, technicians scrambling to ready the craft. Alex checked the controls, his movements precise, while Lyriel calibrated her scanner, her long fingers moving with practiced grace. The crew's sidelong glances didn't escape him, some curious, others wary. He ignored them, focusing on the mission. Arctis-IV was a puzzle, and Lyriel was the key to solving it. The shuttle launched with a low roar, diving through the crimson star's glow toward the planet's violet clouds. The viewport framed a world of alien splendor. Bioluminescent vines pulsed like veins, and rivers glowed with an emerald sheen. Alex piloted, his hands steady on the controls, while Lyriel scanned the terrain, her golden eyes flicking between readouts and the view beyond. "Humans are rare in the Alliance," she said suddenly, her voice soft over the engine's drone. "Yet you command this ship. Why?" Alex glanced at her, caught off guard. "Someone's got to. Why not us?" She tilted her head, studying him. "Most species see you as impulsive, reckless. He grinned, a flash of defiance. Maybe, but we're also curious. We don't stop asking what's next. Her eyes shimmered, intrigued. That curiosity, it's rare. The shuttle touched down in a clearing, the ground soft with moss that glowed faintly underfoot. The air was thick with the scent of alien flora, sweet, sharp, alive. Alex stepped out, his boots sinking slightly, and offered Lyriel a hand. She took it, her touch cool but firm, and for a moment their eyes locked. The jungle around them seemed to hold its breath, vines curling lazily in the humid air. "Scanners ready?" he asked, breaking the silence. She nodded, releasing his hand, picking up the signal. "It's close." They moved through the jungle, guided by Lyriel's scanner. The canopy above wove a tapestry of violet and gold, filtering the crimson sunlight into dappled patterns. Strange calls echoed, high-pitched trills, low rumbles, mingling with the rustle of leaves. Alex's pulse quickened, not from danger, but from the thrill of the unknown. Lyriel moved beside him, her silver tunic catching the light, her presence a quiet anchor. "Stop," she said abruptly, her scanner beeping. She knelt, brushing aside glowing ferns to reveal a metallic fragment, half buried in the soil. Its surface was etched with runes that pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. Alex crouched beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. "Old tech," he said, his voice low. "Pre-alliance, maybe." Her fingers traced the runes, her touch reverent. "It's more than tech. It's intentional. Like it's waiting." He met her gaze, her golden eyes reflecting the fragment's glow. Waiting for what? She didn't answer, but her expression held a weight he couldn't decipher. The air between them thickened, charged with unspoken questions. Alex's hand hovered near hers, the urge to close the distance almost overwhelming. But duty called, and he pulled back, clearing his throat. "Let's mark the site," he said. "We'll bring a team tomorrow." Back on the Odyssey, the bridge was quieter, the crew dispersed to their stations. Alex stood at the viewport, Arctis-IV a-glowing or below. Lyriel joined him, her silhouette framed against the stars. The soft hum of the ship enveloped them, a cocoon of sound and light. "You didn't hesitate to bring me down there," she said, her voice low, "even when your crew questioned it." He turned to her, his green eyes steady. "You're the best at what you do. That's all that matters." Her lips curved, a rare vulnerability in her gaze. "Not to everyone. To me," he said, the words slipping out before he could stop them. She stepped closer, her scent wrapping around him again. Jasmine, ozone, something uniquely her. "You see things others don't, Alex Tanner," she murmured. Her hand brushed his arm, a fleeting touch that sent a shiver through him. "That's a gift." He swallowed, his voice rough. "Or a curse." Her laugh was soft, like a chime in the dark. "Maybe both." The moment stretched, the stars beyond the viewport a silent witness. Alex's heart thudded, the space between them electric. He wanted to say more, to reach for her, but the comms crackled, shattering the spell. "Captain, incoming message from Alliance Command," Harris's voice reported. "They're sending an observer. Admiral Karath." Alex's jaw tightened. Karath, a dominant known for his disdain for humans, was no mere observer. "Acknowledged," he said, his eyes still on Lyriel. "Prep for his arrival." She nodded, her expression unreadable. "Trouble?" "Always," he replied, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "But we'll handle it." As she walked away, her silver tunic swaying, Alex watched her go, a mix of resolve and something deeper stirring in his chest. Arctis-IV held secrets, and so did Lyriel. He'd uncover both, no matter the cost. The jungle's glow lingered in his mind, its vines and rivers a mirror to the mystery beside him. The crew's prejudice was a shadow, but Alex saw Lyriel for what she was: brilliant, vital, undeniable. Whatever lay ahead, Karath, the artifact, the Alliance's judgment, he'd face it with her at his side. Humanity might be young, but Alex Tanner was ready to prove they belonged among the stars. The jungle of Arctis-IV swallowed them, its canopy a kaleidoscope of violet and gold. Alex and Lyriel moved through the undergrowth, their scanners humming. The air was warm, heavy with the pulse of life, and every step revealed wonders. Flowers that sang in ultrasonic frequencies, vines that recoiled at their touch. Lyriel's eyes sparkled as she cataloged samples, her fingers brushing petals with reverence. "You love this," Alex said, watching her kneel beside a glowing orchid. "Not just the science, the discovery." She looked up, her smile radiant. "On Alaris, we're taught to see life as a tapestry. Every thread matters." He crouched beside her, their shoulders close. "We're not so different. Humans chase the unknown, too. Always have." Her gaze lingered on him, searching. "Yet your crew, they avoid me. They think I don't notice." Alex's jaw clenched. "They're idiots. I'll talk to them." "No," she said quickly, her hand brushing his arm. The touch was fleeting, but it sent a jolt through him. "Let them learn, like you have." He met her eyes, the golden glow pulling him in. "I'm still learning." The jungle seemed to pulse around them, its vibrant hum a backdrop to their quiet exchange. Lyriel stood, brushing dirt from her silver tunic, and Alex followed, his boots sinking into the soft moss. They continued their trek, scanners guiding them toward the energy signature's source. The path narrowed, forcing them closer, their arms occasionally brushing as they navigated tangled roots. Each contact was a spark, subtle but undeniable, and Alex found himself hyper-aware of her. Her graceful movements, the faint shimmer of her skin, the way her hair caught the dappled light. They paused at a stream, its emerald waters glowing with bioluminescent algae. Lyriel knelt to collect a sample, her fingers dipping into the current. "This is alive in ways we can't yet measure," she said, her voice soft with wonder. "It's singing, Alex. Can you feel it?" He crouched beside her, his knee brushing hers. "I feel something," he admitted, his eyes on her rather than the stream. Her scent, jasmine and ozone, wrapped around him, stirring a warmth he couldn't ignore. She glanced at him, her golden eyes catching the stream's glow. "You're not like the others," she said. "You don't just look. You see." His throat tightened. "What do I see, Lyriel?" She didn't answer, but her smile was a secret, a promise. The moment stretched, the jungle's song weaving through the silence. Alex's hand twitched, wanting to reach for her, but a rustle in the undergrowth broke the spell. A small, six-legged creature skittering away. Lyriel laughed, the sound like chimes, and the tension eased, though the heat lingered in Alex's chest. Back on the Odyssey, the day's work gave way to evening's calm. Alex found himself on the observation deck, a vast chamber with a viewport that framed the cosmos in all its glory. The stars glittered like diamonds scattered across velvet, and Arctis-IV hung below, a glowing jewel of violet and green. He stood alone, hands clasped behind his back, until the soft click of boots announced Lyriel's arrival. "Mind if I join you?" she asked, her voice a gentle intrusion. He turned, his breath catching at the sight of her. The deck's dim lighting accentuated her pearlescent skin, casting soft shadows that made her seem both ethereal and achingly real. "Never," he said, gesturing to the space beside him. She stepped forward, her silver tunic swaying, and stood close enough that he could feel the faint warmth of her presence. They shared a tray of rations, simple protein bars and synthesized fruit, a far cry from Earth's bounty. But the act felt intimate, a ritual in the quiet dark. Alex spoke first, his voice low, recounting memories of Earth, summer nights under open skies, the roar of old combustion engines, the bitter wars that had propelled humanity to the stars. Lyriel listened, her golden eyes fixed on him, her presence a quiet anchor. "You speak of Earth like it's alive," she said, her voice soft. "Like it shaped you." "It did," he admitted, setting his ration bar down. "Every scar, every dream." "What about Alaris? What shaped you?" She hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of the tray. "Alaris is harmony. We're taught to blend, to connect. But I was always different. Too curious, my elders said. I wanted to see beyond our skies." Alex leaned closer, his elbow brushing hers. Sounds like you were born for this ship. Her laugh was soft, almost shy. Maybe, but it's lonely sometimes. Your crew, they don't trust me. They see the markings, the glow, and they turn away. His jaw tightened, anger flaring at the thought. They're wrong. You're brilliant, Lyriel. They'll see it eventually. She looked at him, her eyes searching. You see it now? What? He swallowed, caught off guard by the question. Because you're you. You don't hide who you are. You don't need to. Her breath caught, and for a moment, the air between them crackled. The stars beyond the viewport seemed to fade, the universe narrowing to the space between their gazes. My people have a ritual, she said, her words careful, deliberate. A transformation. We reveal our true selves only to those who see us, really see us. Alex's heart skipped, a rush of curiosity and something deeper flooding his veins. And what do I see? She smiled, enigmatic, her golden eyes glinting with mischief. You'll know soon. The moment hung, charged with unspoken promise. Alex's hand twitched, the urge to reach for her almost overwhelming. Her scent filled his senses, her closeness a magnet pulling him in. But duty tugged at him, a reminder of the ship, the mission, the crew. He leaned back, breaking the spell, though her words lingered like a spark in the dark. Let's get some rest, he said, his voice rougher than intended. Big day tomorrow. She nodded, standing gracefully. Good night, Alex. As she walked away, her silhouette framed against the starlight, Alex watched, his pulse still racing. The observation deck felt emptier without her, the stars colder. He turned back to the viewport, Arctis-IV's glow a mirror to the questions swirling in his mind. What was this ritual? What did she mean by true selves? And why did her presence make him feel like he was standing on the edge of something vast, something life-changing? The next morning, the jungle welcomed them back, its violet canopy shimmering with dew. Alex and Lyriel led a small team, 2 human scientists and a TRYL technician, all handpicked for their skill, though their unease around Lyriel was palpable. Alex kept them focused, his voice sharp as he directed their efforts. They set up a temporary camp near the metallic fragment, its runes still pulsing faintly. Lyriel worked tirelessly, her scanner mapping the surrounding energy field, her movements a dance of precision and grace. Captain, this is unprecedented, she said, showing him a holographic readout. The energy's not just localized. It's networked like a web across the planet. He studied the display, his brow furrowing. A network? For what? I don't know yet, she admitted, her golden eyes meeting his. But it's deliberate. Something built this. Their conversation was cut short by a low rumble, the ground trembling beneath their feet. The team froze, scanners beeping wildly. Alex grabbed Lyriel's arm, pulling her close as a vine nearby lashed out, its tip glowing with a sharp, electric light. He shoved her behind him, drawing his sidearm, but Lyriel's hand on his wrist stopped him. Wait, she said, her voice calm. She stepped forward, her palm raised, and hummed a low, melodic note. The vine stilled, its glow fading, and the jungle seemed to exhale. The team stared wide-eyed. How'd you do that? One scientist asked, his voice tinged with awe. Lyriel smiled, brushing a strand of midnight hair from her face. Alaris teaches us to listen. Sometimes that's enough. Alex's chest tightened, a mix of admiration and something fiercer. You're full of surprises, he said, his tone light, but his eyes intense. She met his gaze, her smile teasing. You have no idea. As the team resumed their work, Alex stayed close to her, their earlier moment in the jungle replaying in his mind. Her touch, her laugh, her quiet strength. They were weaving into him, a thread he couldn't untangle. The crew's prejudice faded to the background, irrelevant in the face of her brilliance. But Admiral Karatha's arrival loomed, a shadow on the horizon. Alex knew the Domina's reputation, cold, calculating, and fiercely anti-human. Whatever he wanted with Arctis-IV, it wasn't just science. That evening, as the Odyssey orbited silently, Alex found Lyriel in the lab, her silhouette framed against a holographic model of the planet's energy web. The room was dim, lit only by the model's soft glow and the faint shimmer of her skin. She didn't look up as he entered, but her voice was warm. "Couldn't sleep? Not with Karath on his way," he said, leaning against the console. "And other things." Her eyes flicked to him, curious. "Other things." He hesitated, then stepped closer, his voice low. This ritual. What you said last night, it stuck with me." She set her scanner down, turning to face him fully. The lab's light cast shadows across her face, accentuating the curve of her lips, the depth of her eyes. "It's not something we share lightly," she said. "The transformation, it's sacred. A bond. But you, Alex, you make me want to share it." His breath hitched, the air between them electric again. "Why me?" "Because you see me," she said simply, stepping closer. Her hand brushed his chest, a fleeting touch that set his nerves alight. Not the markings, not the glow. "Me." He caught her hand, holding it against him. Her skin was cool, her pulse rapid under his fingers. "Lyriel," he said, his voice rough, "you're not just seen. You're everything." For a moment, they stood frozen, the lab's hum fading to nothing. Her golden eyes searched his, and then she leaned in, her lips brushing his in a kiss so soft it was almost a question. Alex answered, deepening the kiss, his hand sliding to her waist. The world narrowed to her warmth, her scent, the soft hum of her breath. When they parted, her sigil flickered faintly on her forehead, a glow he hadn't noticed before. "We should stop," she whispered, though her eyes said otherwise. "Yeah," he agreed, but neither moved. The promise of more hung between them, a spark waiting to ignite. The comms chirped, Harris's voice cutting through. "Captain, Karath's shuttle is 2 hours out." Alex sighed, stepping back. "Duty calls." Lyriel nodded, her smile wry. "Always does." As he left the lab, her kiss lingered, a fire in his veins. Karath was coming, and with him, trouble. But Lyriel was worth fighting for. Her mind, her heart, her everything. Alex Tanner was ready to face the stars, and whatever they held, with her by his side. Dawn broke over Arctis-IV, painting the jungle in hues of amethyst and flame. The air shimmered with heat, the canopy above a vibrant tapestry of violet leaves and golden vines that swayed in the morning breeze. Alex and Lyriel trekked deeper into the alien wilderness, their scanners humming, guided by the pulsing energy signature that had haunted their thoughts since the first fragment's discovery. The jungle thrummed with life, chirps and trills weaving a symphony, punctuated by the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. Alex's pulse matched the rhythm, a mix of anticipation and the lingering warmth of Lyriel's kiss from the night before. Lyriel moved ahead, her silver tunic catching flickers of sunlight, her pearlescent blue skin glowing faintly in the dappled shade. Her scanner beeped, its readings erratic as they neared the source. She paused, her golden eyes narrowing as she studied the terrain. "It's close," she said, her voice low, laced with excitement. "Stronger than yesterday." Alex adjusted his pack, his green eyes scanning the undergrowth. "Let's keep moving. Whatever it is, we need to see it first." They pushed through a curtain of glowing ferns, their boots sinking into soft, luminescent moss. The air grew heavier, charged with an electric hum that raised the hairs on Alex's neck. Then, the jungle parted, revealing it. A crystal spire, half buried in the earth, its jagged facets pulsing with an inner light. It towered over them, twice Alex's height, its surface smooth yet alive, refracting the sunrise into rainbows that danced across their faces. The ground beneath vibrated faintly, as if the spire were breathing. Lyriel's scanner trembled in her hands, its display flickering. "It's alive," she whispered, her voice reverent. "Not just tech, it's sentient." Alex stepped closer, drawn by an instinct he couldn't name. His fingers brushed the spire's surface, warm and thrumming like a heartbeat. The contact sent a jolt through him, and visions flooded his mind. Ancient cities carved from starlight, starships weaving through nebulae, a voice whispering a warning of unity or ruin. He stumbled back, gasping, his eyes wide. This isn't just an artifact, he said, his voice rough. It's a key. Lyriel's gaze locked on him, her golden eyes reflecting the spire's glow. A key to what? He shook his head, the visions fading but leaving a weight in his chest. I don't know, but it's important, more than we can guess. She knelt beside the spire, her scanner mapping its energy field. The network we detected, it's centered here. This spire's connected to others, maybe across the planet. It's communicating. Alex crouched beside her, their shoulders brushing. Communicating with what? Or who? Her fingers paused, hovering over the scanner. Maybe us, she said softly. Maybe it's waiting for someone to listen. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, the spire's light pulsing in time with their heartbeats. Alex's hand twitched, wanting to reach for her, to anchor himself in her presence. But before he could, a low roar shattered the silence, the ground trembling as a shuttle tore through the sky above. Its sleek, black hull bore the Alliance's crest, and Alex's stomach sank. He knew that design, Domina Tech, reserved for the elite. The shuttle landed in a nearby clearing, its engines kicking up clouds of glowing pollen. The hatch hissed open, and Admiral Karath stepped out, a towering figure cloaked in shadow. His obsidian skin gleamed like polished stone, and his four glowing eyes, two for distance, two for detail, swept the scene with predatory precision. Flanked by two armored guards, their rifles glinting, he moved with a grace that belied his size. His voice boomed, dual-toned and cold, cutting through the jungle's hum. Captain Tanner, this artifact belongs to the Alliance. Step aside. Alex squared his shoulders, his hand resting on his sidearm. It's not a weapon, Admiral. It's knowledge. We need to study it, not control it. Karath's upper eyes narrowed, while the lower pair glinted with disdain. Humans lack the wisdom for such power. Your kind stumbles through the stars, grasping at what you cannot comprehend. Lyriel rose, her scanner clutched tightly, her voice steady. The spire's energy is non-hostile. It's a tool, not a threat. We're the ones studying it, not you. Karath's gaze shifted to her, lingering too long, his expression unreadable but unsettling. Specialist Lyriel, he said, his tone softer but no less dangerous. Your talents are wasted on this human vessel. Assist my team, and your skills will be properly utilized. She stepped forward defiant, her golden eyes blazing. I serve the Odyssey, not you. A flicker of something, anger, amusement, crossed Karath's face. A pity, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. Such potential squandered. Alex's jaw clenched, his fingers tightening on his sidearm. She made her choice, Admiral. Respect it. Karath's four eyes blinked in sequence, a dominant gesture of dismissal. You will relinquish the artifact, Captain, or I will take it. The guards shifted, their rifles subtly raised. Alex held Karath's gaze, his heart pounding, but his voice calm. You'll need more than threats to move us. For a moment, the jungle was silent, the spire's light casting long shadows. Then Karath turned, his cloak swirling, and boarded his shuttle without another word. The craft roared to life, vanishing into the violet sky, leaving a chill in its wake. Alex exhaled, turning to Lyriel. He's not done, he said, his voice low. Not by a long shot. She nodded, her expression grim. He wants the spire, and he'll come for it. They returned to their camp, a sheltered cave near the spire, its entrance framed by glowing vines. The team had retreated to the Odyssey, leaving Alex and Lyriel alone to monitor the artifact's readings. The cave was small, its walls etched with faint, rune-like patterns that pulsed in sync with the spire outside. A portable light cast soft shadows, and the air was thick with tension, their bodies close in the confined space. Lyriel sat cross-legged, her scanner balanced on her knee, her midnight hair spilling over her shoulders. The spire's energy is stabilizing, she said, her voice low. But Karath will come for it. For us. Alex sat beside her, his hand finding hers, his thumb tracing the smooth curve of her palm. Let him try. Her eyes met his golden and fierce, a spark of defiance in their depths. "You're reckless, human, and you're incredible," he replied, his voice husky, raw with the weight of the day. She leaned in, her breath warm against his skin, and their lips brushed in a tentative kiss. The spire's glow flared outside, as if echoing their connection, its light spilling into the cave. The world narrowed to their shared breath, the soft press of her lips, the electric hum of her touch. Alex's pulse raced, his body alive with want, every nerve attuned to her. When they parted, her golden eyes shimmered, her sigil flickering faintly on her forehead. "We shouldn't," she whispered, though her hand lingered on his chest. "Probably not," he agreed, his voice rough, but neither moved. The promise of more hung heavy, a fire waiting to ignite. They settled against the cave wall, her shoulder pressed against his, the spire's light casting a soft glow over them. "What did you see?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "When you touched it?" He hesitated, the vision still vivid. "Cities. Ships. A warning about unity, I think, or division. It's hazy." She nodded, her fingers intertwining with his. "My people believe objects can hold memories. Intentions. This spire, it's trying to tell us something." Alex squeezed her hand, his thumb brushing her knuckles. "Then we'll listen. Together." The cave's quiet enveloped them, the spire's hum a steady pulse. But Karatha's threat loomed, a shadow over their discovery. Alex knew the Admiral's kind. Domina valued power above all, and humans were barely a footnote in their eyes. The spire was no mere relic. It was a game-changer, and Karath wanted it for reasons beyond science. As night deepened, Lyriel's head rested against his shoulder, her warmth a comfort in the alien dark. Alex's mind raced, Karath, the spire, the alliance, but her presence grounded him. Her kiss lingered, a spark that promised more, and he felt a fierce resolve to protect her, to protect this. The jungle outside whispered its secrets, and Alex Tanner knew one thing for certain. Whatever Karath brought, he and Lyriel would face it as one. The Odyssey awaited their return, its silver hull a beacon in orbit. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, Karatha's demands, the spire's mysteries, the crew's lingering prejudice. But tonight, in the cave's soft glow, Alex felt the weight of something greater, a bond forging, a future unfolding. Lyriel's hand in his was a lifeline, and he'd fight for it, for her, against any force in the galaxy. The Odyssey's lab was a sanctuary of light and sound, its sterile walls softened by the rhythmic pulse of the crystal spire at its center. The artifact, now secured in a containment field, cast prismatic beams that danced across the room, painting the air with fleeting rainbows. Alex stood near a console, his green eyes fixed on the spire, its visions still echoing in his mind. Ancient cities, starships, a warning of unity or ruin. But his focus wavered, drawn to Lyriel, who stood before the artifact, her pearlescent blue skin shimmering brighter than ever, as if lit from within. She turned to him, her silver tunic catching the spire's glow, her golden eyes alight with a mix of resolve and vulnerability. "It's time," she said, her voice steady but laced with a tremor that betrayed her nerves. "The ritual." Alex's brow furrowed, his heart lurching. "You don't have to." "I want to," she interrupted, stepping closer, her elongated fingers brushing his arm. The touch was electric, grounding him in the moment. "For you." Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Alex's throat tightened, a rush of emotions, admiration, desire, fear, flooding his chest. "Lyriel, what does this mean? This ritual, what happens?" She smiled, soft but enigmatic, her sigil flickering faintly on her forehead. "It's a choice, a bond. My people only reveal their true selves to those who see beyond the surface. You've seen me, Alex. I trust you." He stepped closer, his boots echoing in the quiet lab. "I don't know what I've done to earn that trust," he said, his voice rough, "but I'm not letting it go." Her golden eyes softened, and for a moment, the spire's hum faded, the universe narrowing to the space between them. Then she stepped back, raising her hands, and the air around her shimmered. A lattice of light erupted from her skin, weaving a translucent cocoon that pulsed with energy, like a star being born. Through its glowing shell, Alex glimpsed her form shifting, her features sharpening, her silhouette accentuating, her presence amplifying into something both familiar and transcendent. His breath caught, his pulse racing as the cocoon's light grew blinding, the lab's consoles flickering in response. With a sound like a chime, the cocoon shattered, fragments of light dissolving into the air. Lyriel emerged, her skin now a radiant sapphire, deep and luminous, her midnight hair cascading in waves that seemed to drink the spire's glow. Her eyes were twin stars, golden and fierce, and a glowing sigil adorned her forehead, pulsing with life, a beacon of her transformed essence. She stood taller, her presence commanding yet intimate, a vision that stole the air from Alex's lungs. "Alex," she said, her voice a melody, richer and more resonant, weaving through the lab like a song. "This is me." He stepped forward, awestruck, his hands trembling as he reached out, then hesitated. "You're breathtaking," he managed, the word inadequate but all he could summon. She closed the distance, her fingers brushing his face, warm and alive, the sigil's glow casting soft shadows across his features. "You saw me before," she said, her voice low, intimate. "That's why I chose you." Their gazes locked, and the lab faded, its sterile edges blurring into insignificance. Alex's heart pounded, her touch igniting a fire he'd fought to contain. "What does this mean?" he asked, his voice rough, raw with the weight of her words. "This transformation?" Her lips curved, a smile both tender and fierce. "It means I'm yours," she whispered, her breath warm against his skin. "If you'll have me." The words broke something in him, a dam of restraint crumbling. He pulled her close, his hands finding her waist, her sapphire skin smooth and vibrant under his touch. Their lips met in a kiss that burned with intensity, urgent and deep, as if they could pour every unspoken word into it. Her skin glowed brighter, the sigil flaring like a star, and Alex felt a psychic link snap into place. Her emotions flooding his mind, raw and powerful, a cascade of trust, longing, and fierce devotion. He gasped against her lips, overwhelmed, her thoughts intertwining with his, a bond that transcended flesh. They sank to the floor, entwined, the spire's light bathing them in warmth, its pulse syncing with their racing heartbeats. Her hands slid to his shoulders, her touch both gentle and commanding, and Alex felt the world dissolve, leaving only her scent of jasmine and ozone, her warmth, her presence. Their kisses deepened, a dance of breath and whispered promises, stopping just short of the unspoken, a line they both felt but didn't cross. The moment was theirs, a sanctuary carved from the chaos of the galaxy, and Alex wanted nothing more than to stay in it forever. But the comms crackled, shattering the spell with a cold, dual-tone voice. "Surrender the artifact, Captain Tanner," Admiral Karatha's words sliced through the lab, "or face consequences." Alex froze, his arms still around Lyriel, her sigil's glow dimming slightly as she tensed. He pressed his forehead to hers, their breaths mingling. "He's got lousy timing," he muttered, a wry smile tugging at his lips. Lyriel's laugh was soft, but her eyes were steel. "He's not taking it. Or us." They stood, reluctantly untangling, though her hand lingered in his, a lifeline. Alex activated the comms, his voice steady despite the fire still burning in his veins. "Admiral, the spire stays with the Odyssey. We're studying it for the Alliance, not your personal collection." Karatha's reply was a low growl. "You're out of your depth, human. My team arrives at dawn. Comply, or I'll take it by force." The comms cut off, leaving a heavy silence. Alex turned to Lyriel, her sapphire skin still radiant, her sigil pulsing faintly. "He's not bluffing," he said, his jaw tight. "We need a plan." She nodded, stepping to the spire, her scanner already in hand. "The spire's energy, it's reacting to us." To the ritual. I felt it during. She paused, her cheeks darkening slightly, a flush of color against her sapphire glow. During the link, Alex's lips twitched, a spark of humor cutting through the tension. Yeah, I felt that too. Her smile was fleeting but warm, and she focused on the scanner. The psychic link, it's not just between us. The spire's part of it. It's amplifying our connection, like a conduit. He joined her, studying the readouts, his shoulder brushing hers. So it's not just a key, it's a bridge. Between minds, maybe between species. Her golden eyes met his, a flicker of hope in their depths. If we can understand it, we can protect it. Show the Alliance what it really is. They worked through the night, the lab a cocoon of light and sound. Lyriel's transformed presence was a constant distraction, her movements fluid, her voice a melody that tugged at Alex's focus. But her mind was sharper than ever, her insights cutting through the spire's mysteries. They mapped its energy patterns, cross-referencing the visions Alex had seen, piecing together a theory. The spire was a relic of a long-dead civilization, designed to foster unity through shared consciousness. It wasn't a weapon, but a tool for connection, a testament to what species could achieve together. As dawn approached, the lab's lights dimmed, the spire's glow the only illumination. Lyriel leaned against the console, exhaustion softening her edges, but her sigil still pulsed, a beacon of her strength. Alex stood close, his hand finding hers, their fingers intertwining. "We're not giving it up," he said, his voice low, resolute. "Not to Karath, not to anyone." She squeezed his hand, her golden eyes fierce. "We're in this together, Alex. All of it." He pulled her close, their foreheads touching, the psychic link humming faintly between them. Her emotions brushed his mind. Courage, trust, a flicker of something deeper that made his heart race. "Together," he echoed, his voice a vow. The lab's doors hissed open, Lieutenant Harris's voice cutting through. "Captain, Karath's shuttle is landing. He's brought a full squad." Alex stepped back, his hand still in Lyriel's, her warmth a steady anchor. Karath's threat was real, and the spire's power was a beacon drawing trouble. But Lyriel's transformation, their bond, the spire's purpose, they were worth fighting for. The lab's light pulsed, a heartbeat echoing their own, and Alex knew the battle ahead would test them both. He met Lyriel's gaze, her sigil flaring, and felt a fire ignite within him. Whatever Karath brought, they'd face it as one, their connection a strength no force in the galaxy could break. The Galactic Council chamber on Arcturus Station was a cathedral of light, its crystalline walls soaring toward a domed ceiling that refracted starlight into a kaleidoscope of colors. The air hummed with the subtle buzz of alien tech, and the chamber's vastness made Alex Tanner feel both insignificant and resolute. He stood at the center of a polished obsidian platform, the crystal spire glowing beside him, its inner light pulsing like a heartbeat. Lyriel stood at his side, her sapphire skin radiant, her sigil a steady beacon on her forehead. Her silver tunic shimmered under the chamber's glow, and her golden eyes held a quiet fire, unyielding despite the weight of the moment. Opposite them loomed Admiral Karath, his towering domina frame cloaked in shadow, his obsidian skin absorbing the light. His four glowing eyes, two for distance, two for detail, gleamed with disdain, their unblinking stare a challenge. Behind him, his aides stood rigid, their armor glinting. The Council, 17 representatives of the Alliance's most powerful species, sat in elevated seats that curved around the chamber like a crescent moon. Their forms varied, tentacled Zorath, feathered Trll, metallic-skinned Krill, each watching in silence, their expressions unreadable. Karath's voice broke the stillness, a thunderclap that echoed off the crystalline walls. "Esteemed members," he began, his dual tones sharp and commanding. "This artifact is too powerful for human hands. Their recklessness, their inexperience, endangers us all. The Domina propose immediate seizure and containment under our stewardship." Murmurs rippled through the council, a low hum of agreement from some, skepticism from others. Alex's jaw tightened, his green eyes narrowing as he stepped forward, his boots clicking on the obsidian floor. "The artifact isn't a weapon," he said, his voice steady, cutting through the chamber's hum. "It's a bridge between species, between worlds. Humanity may be young, but we've earned our place. We've studied it, risked our lives for it, and we know what it can do." Karatha's upper eyes blinked, a flicker of irritation. "Earned," he scoffed, his lower eyes glinting. "You've barely crawled from your cradle world. You lack the discipline to wield such power." Lyriel moved to Alex's side, her hand brushing the spire, her sigil flaring with a burst of golden light. The chamber seemed to pause, the artifact's pulse syncing with her own. "It chose us," she said, her voice clear, resonant, carrying the weight of her transformed state. "Because we chose each other." The spire responds to connection, to trust, not to control. The council leaned forward, their attention sharpening. A TRYLL representative, her feathers rustling, tilted her head. "Explain, Specialist Lyriel," she said, her voice a melodic trill. "What evidence supports this claim?" Lyriel's fingers traced the spire's surface, her touch coaxing a soft glow from its facets. "The spire's energy aligns with psychic bonds," she said, her scanner projecting a holographic web of light above the platform. "It amplifies shared consciousness, not destruction. My transformation, our bond, unlocked its potential. It's a tool for unity, not a weapon for war." Karatha's laugh was a low rumble, dismissive. "Sentimental nonsense. The Alaris are known for their mysticism, not science. This artifact demands rigor, not fairy tales." Alex's fists clenched, but he kept his voice even. "Call it what you want, Admiral. The data doesn't lie. We've mapped its energy, seen its visions. It's a relic of a civilization that valued connection over conquest. You turn it into a trophy." The chamber stirred, whispers growing louder. A krill counselor, his metallic skin glinting, raised a claw. "Captain Tanner, you speak boldly for a human. But why should we trust your judgment over the Dominus?" Alex's heart swelled, the weight of humanity's place in the galaxy pressing against him. He glanced at Lyriel, her golden eyes steady, her presence a spark of courage. "Because we're not alone," he said, his voice rising, resonant. "Look around. This isn't just about us." He gestured to the gallery above, where a human TRYLL couple stood, their hands clasped, their faces defiant. A human Zorith pair joined them, their tentacled embrace a silent testament. Then another, a krill and a human, their metallic and flesh hands intertwined. The gallery came alive, dozens of interspecies pairs rising, their presence a chorus of unity. Murmurs turned to gasps, the council's stoic facade cracking. "Love, trust, these cross all boundaries," Alex said, his voice a blade cutting through doubt. "That's what makes us strong. Humanity may be young, but we've learned to see beyond differences. The spire proves it. It's not about power. It's about what we can build together." Karatha's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, his composure faltering. "This is irrelevant," he snapped. "The artifact's potential cannot be left to emotional whims." But a new voice cut through, sharp and clear. "Enough." Dr. Vale, a Zorith scientist with coiling tentacles and a reputation for brilliance, rose from the gallery. Her bioluminescent eyes glowed with intensity. "I've studied the Odyssey's data," she said, projecting a hologram of the spire's energy patterns. "Captain Tanner is correct. The artifact's energy aligns with psychic bonds, not destruction. It's a conduit, not a cannon. The Dominus claims are speculative at best." The chamber erupted in debate, counselors leaning toward one another, their voices a cacophony of clicks, trills, and hums. Karatha's obsidian face darkened, his aides shifting uneasily. Alex exchanged a glance with Lyriel, her sigil pulsing softly, her hand brushing his in a fleeting gesture of support. The spire's light flared, as if affirming their cause, its glow bathing the platform in warmth. The council's chair, a towering krill with a voice like grinding metal, raised a claw for silence. "We will deliberate," she said. "Remain here." Hours passed, the chamber's light shifting as Arcturus station orbited its star. Alex and Lyriel stood close, the spire between them, its pulse a steady reminder of their bond. "You were incredible," Lyriel whispered, her voice low, meant only for him. "You spoke for all of us." He smiled, his hand finding hers, their fingers intertwining. "Couldn't have done it without you. That psychic link, it's still there, isn't it?" She nodded, her sigil flickering. "Always will be." The council returned, the krill chair rising. "The artifact will be shared," she declared, her voice echoing. "The Odyssey will lead its study, with oversight from a multi-species team. Humanity is recognized as an equal partner in the Alliance. Admiral Karath, your request is denied. You are reassigned to a research outpost, effective immediately." Karath's 4 eyes blazed, but he bowed stiffly, his cloak swirling as he exited, his aides trailing behind. The chamber buzzed with murmurs, the gallery erupting in cheers from the interspecies couples. Alex's chest loosened, a weight lifting, and he turned to Lyriel, her sapphire skin glowing brighter than ever. "We did it," she said, her voice trembling with relief, her golden eyes shimmering. He pulled her into an embrace, her warmth flooding his senses. "Because of you," he murmured, his lips brushing her ear. The spire's light pulsed, a silent celebration, and the council's gaze softened, a rare moment of unity in a fractured galaxy. Back on the Odyssey, in the quiet of their shared quarters, Alex and Lyriel collapsed onto a narrow bunk, the weight of the day melting away. The room was dim, lit only by a single viewport framing Arctis-IV's violet glow. Lyriel's body pressed against his, her sapphire skin warm, her sigil a soft beacon in the dark. "We changed things," she whispered, her fingers tracing his jaw, her touch sending a shiver through him. "You changed everything," he said, his voice rough, his green eyes locked on hers. He leaned in, kissing her deeply, the psychic link flaring as their emotions intertwined. Joy, relief, a fierce hunger for each other. Her sigil blazed, its light spilling across the room, and their embrace tightened, a fire that promised more, the night stretching before them like a canvas of unspoken desires. They sank into each other, the bunk creaking softly, their breaths a quiet rhythm against the hum of the ship. The viewport starlight bathed them, a silent witness to their victory. Karath was gone, the spire secured, humanity's place affirmed. But in that moment, it was just them, Alex and Lyriel, human and Alaris, bound by a love that had shifted the stars. The psychic link hummed, a thread connecting their hearts, and Alex knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy awaited, and they'd face it together, their bond a beacon in the dark. 6 months later, the Odyssey hung in orbit above a healed Arctis-IV, its violet jungles sprawling vibrant and lush under the gentle influence of the crystal spire. The planet glowed like a jewel against the velvet black of space, its rivers shimmering with emerald light, a testament to the artifact's quiet power. The air aboard the ship was lighter now, the crew's earlier tensions softened by time and the shared triumph at Arcturus Station. Humanity's place in the Galactic Alliance was no longer questioned, and the spire, now studied by a multi-species team, had become a symbol of unity, its psychic resonance fostering cooperation across worlds. Alex Tanner stood on the observation deck, the vast viewport framing a canvas of endless stars. His navy blue uniform was crisp, but his posture was relaxed, the weight of past battles lifted. At 35, he carried a quiet confidence, his sharp green eyes reflecting the starlight, softened by a warmth that hadn't been there before. The deck was silent, save for the faint hum of the ship's systems, a soothing backdrop to the moment. He felt her before he heard her, Lyriel's presence, a familiar spark in the psychic link that bound them. She stepped onto the deck, her sapphire skin radiant under the dim lighting, her silver tunic flowing like liquid starlight. Her midnight hair cascaded in waves, and her sigil pulsed softly on her forehead, a beacon of her transformed essence. Her golden eyes met his, and a smile curved her lips, both tender and fierce. She crossed to him, her movements fluid, and slipped her arms around his waist, her warmth pressing against his back. The psychic link hummed, a gentle current of her emotions, contentment, love, a flicker of mischief, brushing his mind. "We changed things," she said, her voice warm against his ear, a melody that sent a shiver down his spine. "Not just for us." He turned in her arms, cupping her face, his thumbs tracing the smooth curve of her cheeks. Her sigil flared at his touch, its glow casting soft shadows across his features. "You changed me," he said, his voice low, raw with the truth of it. "Everything I am now, it's because of you." Her golden eyes shimmered, a depth of emotion swirling within them. "And you, Alex Tanner, made me believe in more than I ever thought possible." Their lips met, a kiss that carried the weight of their journey. Every risk, every fight, every moment of doubt and triumph. The spire, secured in the lab below, pulsed faintly, its light spilling through the ship's conduits, a beacon of the unity they'd fought for. Alex felt her heart in his, their psychic link a bridge beyond species, a bond that wove their souls into one. The kiss deepened, slow and deliberate, her sapphire skin warm under his hands, her scent, jasmine and ozone, filling his senses. When they parted, their breaths mingled, the starlight framing them in a halo of silver. "I love you," he said, his voice raw, the words of vow etched into the cosmos. "And I you," she replied, her eyes shining like twin stars, her sigil pulsing in time with her heartbeat. The stars bore witness, their love a spark that would light the galaxy. They stood together, her head resting against his chest, the observation deck a sanctuary of quiet intimacy. Beyond the viewport, Arctis-IV spun, its jungles thriving, its ecosystem balanced by the spire's gentle influence. The artifact's psychic resonance had done more than heal a planet. It had sparked a shift in the alliance. Interspecies collaborations flourished, new treaties were signed, and the Odyssey had become a hub for scientists and diplomats eager to learn from the spire's secrets. Humanity, once dismissed as reckless upstarts, now stood as equals, their curiosity and empathy a bridge to the stars. "You think it's enough?" Lyriel asked, her voice soft, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his arm. "What we've done, will it last?" Alex tightened his arms around her, his chin resting on her hair. "Nothing's permanent," he said, his tone thoughtful but firm. "But we've given them a start, a chance to see what's possible when we stop fighting and start listening." She tilted her head, her golden eyes searching his. "You sound like an Alaris." He grinned, a flash of defiance. "Maybe you're rubbing off on me." Her laugh was a chime, bright and unguarded, and she pressed closer, her sigil flaring with a burst of light. "Careful, human. That's a dangerous path." "Danger's my specialty," he shot back, his voice husky, his hands sliding to her waist. The psychic link pulsed, her amusement mingling with a deeper warmth that set his nerves alight. He leaned in, kissing her again, a slow, searing press of lips that promised more than words could hold. Her hands found his shoulders, her touch both gentle and commanding, and the deck seemed to fade, leaving only the heat of their connection. The moment stretched, their breaths a quiet rhythm against the hum of the ship. When they parted, Lyriel's sigil glowed brighter, its light spilling across the deck, a mirror to the stars beyond. "We should go," she whispered, though her eyes said she'd rather stay. "The team's expecting our report." "Let them wait," Alex murmured, his forehead resting against hers. "Just a little longer." She smiled, her fingers brushing his jaw, a touch that sent a shiver through him. "You're impossible. And you're everything," he said, the words slipping out, raw and unfiltered. Her sigil flared again, and the psychic link carried a rush of her emotions. Love, fierce and unshakable, a tide that swept him under. They lingered on the deck, wrapped in each other, the stars a silent chorus around them. The Odyssey hummed, its silver hull a beacon in the void, carrying the hopes of a galaxy learning to unite. Below, the spire's light pulsed in the lab, its psychic resonance a thread weaving through the alliance, fostering connections that transcended borders and blood. Alex thought of the council chamber, the interspecies couples who'd stood with them, the Zorth scientists whose data had tipped the scales. Their victory wasn't just theirs, it was a spark for something greater, a future where differences were strengths, not divisions. "You ever think about Earth?" Lyriel asked, her voice pulling him back. She'd stepped to the viewport, her silhouette framed against the stars, her sapphire skin catching their silver glow. "What it's like now with all this?" He joined her, his shoulder brushing hers. "Sometimes," he admitted, "it's still home, scars and all. But out here, this feels like where I'm meant to be." She turned, her golden eyes soft. "With me?" "Always," he said, his voice steady, a vow carved in starlight. He took her hand, their fingers intertwining, the psychic link humming with their shared resolve. "You're my home, Lyriel." Her sigil blazed, its light spilling across the deck, and she pulled him close, their lips meeting in a kiss that felt like a beginning. The spire's pulse echoed through the ship, a heartbeat of unity, and Alex felt the galaxy shift around them, a canvas of possibility stretching endless before them. Her warmth, her strength, her love, they were his anchor, his fire, his reason to fight. The deck's quiet enveloped them, the stars a testament to their journey. The Odyssey would sail on, its mission evolving as the Alliance grew, but Alex knew one truth above all. Lyriel was his constant, her sigil a beacon in the dark. The psychic link carried her heart to his, a bond that no distance, no force could break. They stood together, human and Alaris, their love a spark that had lit the galaxy, a flame that would burn for eons. As Arctis-IV spun below, its jungles thriving, Alex felt a quiet certainty settle in his chest. The spire's work wasn't done, and neither was theirs. The stars called, and they'd answer, together, always together, their bond a light that would guide the way. The viewport framed their reflection, a silhouette of unity against the cosmos, and Alex Tanner knew, in that moment, that they'd already won. The galaxy was theirs, and they'd shape it with every step, every kiss, every heartbeat shared under the endless stars.